Okay, so I have my mixture made up, okay? And I kneaded it for several minutes, and it's about the consistency of clay right now, which is really awesome because you really can do some really cool sculpting with this. It stays this consistency for probably about 30 minutes. And then you have about 2 hours of working time before it sets up where you can't carve anymore. Okay, so we will get started. The one thing that I have really learned about using concrete, I've learned a lot, but one of the things that I've really learned is that there is no fast way to this process. This is a slow and steady process. And I've learned a lot about, it's really tried my patience, which is good. You cannot move fast. Everything is very heavy. You just move slowly through it. Having been in the painting industry for 30 years, I'm used to moving fast. And this has really been a good practice for me to learn to just slow down, pay attention to details. There is no rushing, okay? Okay, so now what I'm gonna do is I have this branch and this branch that need, there's rebar in here, and they have the structural coat on. This coat, I used masonry sand instead of all-purpose sand, which is more coarse. So this, it's a little bit more fine. You can get better details. Okay, so when you apply concrete to concrete, it always has to be wet. If I were to just start putting pieces onto this dry, it would suck all the moisture out of this and it would make it weak. So I'm going to take some, this isn't just water, but it's water mixed with a bonding agent. It's just called an admixture bonding agent. You can get it at box stores. I think it's 1 part bonding agent to 5 parts water. And you apply it first. So it gives that older concrete something to drink. So it's not quite so thirsty. Okay. It's a really important step you can't forget, and it's easy to forget and just get excited and want to start, applying more concrete, because this takes many steps. It's not something you just sit down and crank out in an afternoon. It's days of work and steps, and you can only do so much at a time, and then there's dry time, and you have to babysit it so it doesn't dry too fast, la la la. Okay, so now I'm going to take a bit of clay and make a little patty and start to apply it where I want it. Now you see on this first coat, I put texture in it, and you've heard it called a scratch coat. It literally is a scratch coat. It has scratches in it, so it will grab, or this next layer will have something to grab onto and have some tooth. Okay, now I'm not going to worry too much about sculpting it. I'm just going to kind of get it on there. You probably couldn't see that video. I'm going to keep rolling here, but another really cool thing about this process is it's very intuitive, I've found, in that it kind of tells you what to do. It'll start to, a lump will be evident, and then you'll realize that's a great place for a knot, or that's, that looks very natural. So it kind of helps you. It's like it does some of the work. which is really cool. It makes it really fun and interesting and fascinating. So I'm just gonna keep applying wet to wet. Okay. And you want to have some time to put the details in, so you don't want it to dry too fast, right? So giving it a drink first is going to keep everything wetter. You'll see the little fibers sticking out here. Those are fiberglass fibers, and I'm gonna try to see if there's a different type of fiber I can use, because when I handle it in between coats, those fibers get on my skin and they make me crazy. I have really sensitive skin to begin with, but it's like glass. So, I mean, I have a lot to learn. There is a lot to learn about this, and there are only so many sources that you can learn from. So I have been watching a gentleman out of Illinois, I believe he is. He's a retired science teacher, I believe, and he's very open with his information, which is really cool, because there's a lot of gatekeeping when you get into the different types of art and a lot of industries. But he's just very open to sharing what he has learned. He's very unassuming, just very honest, and I've learned a lot from him, and a lot of other people have too. He's on YouTube. His name is D. Perry, and he's a good one if you're interested in ferrocement and learning more about it. You'll have to check out his YouTube channel. But yeah, again, I've noticed with him, this is a slow process. It's just pacing yourself, not trying to rush it. You can't. It's just out of the question. Okay, so I'll have some play time now. I mean, some open time, okay, to be able to come back to this. The thing is that you can't bite off too much, because this thing is so heavy. I guess that's the most I can turn it. Yeah, so this one too needs to be addressed. So when I created this piece, I took pictures along the way. I had a old drum-shaped light fixture that I had taken apart, and I ended up using the framework for it for this. And I just kind of confunctuated something, thinking, oh, this should work. And it did work, but I've learned a better way to get this flatter and blah, blah, blah. But that's how you learn. Well, that's how I learn anyway, is, yeah, I can learn by watching other people for sure. But I have to make the mistakes. That's how I really learn. That's how it really sinks in, when I have to do it wrong before I do it right, a lot of times. A good friend of mine who's, I'd say that he's a retired engineer. He's in his 80s, but I don't even know that he just really isn't retired. He's just on the go continually. So he's an engineer, and I've learned so much from him. And many years ago, he introduced me to the term failing forward. And that has stuck with me for years, and will always stick with me, that engineers and artists are a lot alike in that we have to try many different ways, and to not be discouraged when it goes wrong, when something goes wrong, because that's how we learn. And so he kind of rejoiced. You know, when I would do a project for him, I'd be like, oh, that didn't work. That's great, he'd say. I was like, come on. And he'd say, no, that's great. You're failing forward. And there's just so much truth in that. As you get older, you become more, I don't know, introspective and not so hard on yourself, I guess. Anyway, I think that's what we're supposed to do, right? So, anyway. Okay. I see there's a spot here that I didn't get at yesterday. Yeah, I guess there's one more I have to do. So the first layer that I put on, of course, I'm attaching the, let's call it clay, to chicken wire, or I used a couple different types of expanded wire. I learned that chicken wire, the holes in chicken wire are pretty doggone big, and so you can't have, anyway, it can fall through and blah, blah, blah. And there's going to be times that definitely I'll have to use chicken wire, but some of the wires that have, some of the metal netting that has smaller holes is going to be what I use, I would say, going forward a lot more often. There's more grabbins. Oh, in the words of my friend Rick, stickticity. Good word, isn't it? Okay, I almost have this on. And as you put it on, it starts to set up a little bit, which actually makes it easier to carve. When it's this wet, it's just kind of too wet. But it starts setting up pretty quickly. And then it's at the perfect stage for carving. So at this point though, you can already start to envision where I want to have elbows and knots, and you know, I could do it as I go along, but already I know that I want to make this spot right here into kind of an elbow. See? And even if I don't have it as big as I want now, it gives me, I can envision what kind of the overall look of the piece. I don't want it all perfect. I want it pretty gnarly. I'm gonna make that even bigger. Pull some of that out of there. And see, it kind of sags, but after just a short amount of time, it'll set up enough where I can start carving that elbow and giving it the definition I want to give it. Right. I'm gonna put a knot over here. And some of the knots, again, they just kind of show themselves to you as you're working with your tools. A little bit more down here. I'm going to set this aside. I have a little container of water here. And I'm going to use this little trowel to start to come. I'm not really scraping it. I'm more compressing it, okay? And I want it to be kind of twisty. So this is, you know, I can start to do that at this point. I can start the twists. Actually, I think I want to go this way. So I'm compressing the clay so it's pressing right up to the first coat. There's not air bubbles and gaps and stuff. But doing this too, you start to get a feel for the texture that you want to create. This might be a little soft yet. This side. I'm going to use water to kind of wet my tool so it moves a little smoother, although I don't want to add too much more water. Because I want to make sure that this clay stays very strong. I don't want to weaken the mixture by adding too much water. But water is always a good, the best manipulating agent when it comes to a lot of the types of things that I do anyway, with paint and air dry clay and you know, any kind of sculpture that has a water base. So I want to look back and see which way my lines were going yesterday. So here they're kind of coming up this way. So I want to make sure that I'm kind of lining up with that. Although I have found that this is very forgiving, you know. there's so many different types of trees and so many different types of bark that I ran into a knot that I created yesterday. I gotta pull some of that off because I really like the way that knot turned out. But it is very forgiving. It's just fun. So yesterday when I started this, it was the first time I was going to be applying a detail coat. You know, I had spent many hours putting on the structural coat on not only this piece, but the gate outside that I'm working on. Obviously, I've spent countless hours on that. And you know, I got very used to that process and what that clay felt like and everything. But yesterday was going to be the first day I was going to be applying this finer sculptural layer. And I was kind of nervous about it. I like I said, I've been doing research on this and watching countless videos, and I mean, I sculpt, I use air dry clay a lot, and it's not like I'm new to sculpting. And obviously I'm an artist, and I work with composition and all that kind of stuff. So it's not like it shouldn't have been so scary, but it still was, because I knew this was it. This was where the rubber meets the road to get the look that I was after. Okay, so about the first 20, maybe even 30 minutes, I was pretty nervous, and I was moving, and I was seeing how fast it set up, and I thought, oh my gosh, this is setting up a lot faster than I thought it was going to. And then suddenly I realized I was at that sweet spot. And the carving was perfect, and we're getting to that spot now, and I just started enjoying it, and I literally carved for about an hour and a half. I could just kind of keep going. Eventually it's done, but you know, it kind of seizes up and then you're done. I mean, you can always add more, just like I'm adding more today. I mean, if I needed to add something tomorrow, I could, but you know, in a perfect world, this is it. This is what I'm doing. This is it. This is where I get the look. Okay. So I have lots and lots of tools, and I guess I'm just going to use what I used yesterday. So I'm just going to use, this is just a clay carving tool. Again, I'm going to look at the way I was going yesterday. I'm going to just start carving in some grain. Okay. I think this is a little bit wet. This little elbow will be fun when the time comes. Leave it alone, Mindy. Yeah, leave it alone. Okay. All right, here I have probably just need to stop talking and just concentrate.